Now this will be fun. This is cool. So have a seat. Yeah, I know. Oh, this is cool. I've never been crammed in. So we had, I'm Professor Oakes. I'm the director of EPICS. Just got back from about 11 days in India where we're talking about doing EPICS over with Indian universities. And I kept talking. I was like, yeah, and we're up to like 400 students a semester, which is a lot, right? Well, this semester we're bumping up against 500 because there's a lot of you, which is cool. And I'll explain what we can do, but it's just caused us, because we didn't expect so many of you in the rooms we reserved. But that's okay. Because after this week, you get to go to the big room, and there's plenty of seats, okay? So there are, but that's actually really cool. Yeah, you guys can hang out over there. I'm going to go as fast as I can to give you all an intro to get you prepped for this week. A few of you actually were in lab already. Anybody been in lab yet? Oh, how'd it go? Good? Good over there. Not so, okay, we're not sure over here. Well, I shouldn't have asked. What we're going to do, I want to talk about what EPICS is, give you a little idea about expectations, describe what we do for grading and things, and to get you started with, did we move? Okay, we've got a couple things that we're going to need from you. So for those of you who like to multitask, this is our attendance sheet. And so you want to put your name and fill in the little bubble things for your name. And do we need their ID too, right? Just the name? We need the name and a student ID, okay? And we don't have that because we didn't pass them out. All right, you'll get one of those. Good thing I asked. There are also two sheets. There's a yellow sheet. So, Mom and Dad asked, so how was the first day of spring, which is what we call the semester? Ha ha, outside weather, it's spring. Midwest humor. They say, how's it going? I said, I got asked to be a model today. Y'all did. This is a model release form. We take pictures in EPICS. They show up on websites and publications. We need your permission. If you don't want your picture taken when you go to lab, please tell your TA and your advisor, and we'll try to accommodate that. So this is one of the forms we need back. There's also a safety form for the labs to use our, good luck passing these out. These are the safety procedures to use the labs and to get access. We need that form signed. Our TAs will collect these on the way out, which will be fun. So if for some reason you're not fascinated and captivated by what I'm talking about, you can fill out the forms and sign them. You should have had a packet with a notebook and some other, right? Anybody not get these? Who else didn't? Whoa! What'd I do? Oh, okay. How many? We pass one back. All right. That's so exciting. I've never had standing room. Well, I guess I have sitting room only. Sorry. Standing in the back. All right. So your notebook, free gift. I don't know how many classes they give free stuff to you. Usually we ask you to buy stuff at ridiculous prices, don't we? Yeah, I keep forgetting. See, I always get so excited about this time, like all these people, and you're like, it's the last hour. I've been back at college. I wish I was still on break. Bring me down. This notebook, if you want to use this, that's great. You can keep it. It's a free gift. If you're like, I really didn't want it, you can give it back to us. In EPICS, in this class, there are no tests or quizzes. But we still give you grades. Well, we can tell who's optimistic and who's pessimistic. We have to grade you on something. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that we need to grade, but we need evidence of the things that you're doing. One of the easiest ways to provide that evidence is just by keeping things written in a notebook. Some of you are digital, like, oh, I like to blog and all this stuff. That's great. You can keep that. We just need to access it. But if you want to keep a written notebook, you have one. Put your name in it. You can even start taking notes today in it, in the first page. Don't care if it's in pen, pencil format. It's just got to be legible for that. And if you do this, I would recommend you number your pages, because you want to say, oh, I wrote something profound on, it's about halfway back, kind of right behind. It's much easier to say, see page 38. Does that make sense? Now, the types of things to write in your notebook, there's a pink sheet that gives you some hints on the types of things to document and how to do that. So that's one of the things that I would recommend reading. The other thing that's in here is the white syllabus. I'm not going to read it to you. I love that. Oh, what'd you do in college? The professor read the syllabus. I'm going to give you some highlights and describe the things in here, but this is yours to take. There's a copy on the website also, but we'll highlight some of those things. I think that's in EPICS, I will tell you, there are people that take the EPICS class that report it was life-changing, it was career-changing, it's impacted me. We've done research on graduates and go, oh, EPICS was one of the most powerful classes. Talk to other people, yeah, it was just a class. I really didn't like it, didn't get much out of it. It really is what you make of it. So, you will get out of EPICS what you put into it. Like I said, you're going to have the opportunity to work on real projects. Everything you do in the EPICS class should be intended to be used by somebody. We develop designs for people that don't have access to the kind of expertise that we do. If you get in a team like we don't think we're actually going to get working on something that's going to get delivered, it's not going to work, talk to your advisor, shut the project down, find something else. Despite the fact that we have a ridiculous number of students in the class, we still have a waiting list. It's one of the reasons we didn't cap enrollment. We have a waiting list from community partners on projects they'd like done. So there are more things that people are asking for than we can deliver. Does that make sense? So you've got an opportunity. This is why if you really dive in and say, how do we get this figured out? And you look at the experience not as a class, because in every class, the objective is what? A normal class in college, what are you trying to get out of it? Be honest here. A grade, right? EPICS works best when you don't focus on the grade. You focus on, can we do the right thing to get the right project in our community partners' hands? If you do that, the grades come. But the other things, if you do that, you start thinking like a professional. And that's some of the benefits. All right? I know it's hard. We'll talk about how we grade and some of those things. It's also an opportunity where you can practice being a professional without the risk of being fired. We don't fire many EPICS students. and not for making dumb design decisions. It's like, I blew up something in the lab and caught somebody on fire. Well, that would have police implications. But anyway, all right, what graduates talk about is when they go to work for a company, they're doing a lot of the same decisions, but if they make a mistake, the people could lose their jobs. And so there's more risk. So EPICS should be free, so there are opportunities to take risks and to learn things that are going to help you later, regardless of what discipline you're going into. It's also a great opportunity to have something to talk about in interviews. Before I was a professor and I did interviewing for a really large company, in our interview protocols, I'll look at, I always get a kick out of students coming back on, oh yeah, and I mentioned EPICS and we talked about it for the whole interview. I'm like, yeah, we've been telling you could do that. But you need things to talk about. That's why I'm saying you're going to get out of it what you put in. Say, oh yeah, you're an EPICS team. Well, I'm just kind of sitting around waiting for people to tell me what to do. Okay, that won't get you a job. But it's an opportunity to take risks and gain experience. What EPICS at its core, it's a multidisciplinary design class. So we're all going to participate in the design of something. Now some of you may come and say, oh, my major, we don't traditionally do design. I can map that in. What we're trying to do is to meet a need. And last year we had about 70 different majors. Cross engineering, outside. We had, over the last couple of years, every college in the university represented. Because we need those things, that diverse expertise and perspectives to meet the kind of needs we work on. So it's multidisciplinary design, and the intent is to prepare you to be professionals. I have to tell you, I was a jet engine designer before I came to the university. And designing jet engines looks different than most of the things we do in EPICS. I'm still trying to figure out how to get a community need with a jet engine. We'll get there someday. But what I wanted to do is to prepare professionals to come into our company. And we would hire folks in finance, in manufacturing, in design, and in human resources. And we'd have to spend all this time to move them from being students to professionals. Because we treat you to be good students. And there are a lot of things that you do as a student, but people in the real world don't do those things. So we try to run EPICS. The idea is to create a framework where you can start to practice being a professional and using whatever discipline that you have. Part of one of the most valuable things our graduates say is having to work with people from other disciplines and people that are different. Students also say it's one of the most frustrating things. But it's the kind of thing you do. College is the only time where we separate you by major. The rest of the real world just mixes people. That's what we want to do. These are some of the companies that like what we do. There are at least 30 companies that look at EPICS, the EPICS class, as experience. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is with your resume, put the EPICS class there. And it ticks me off because there's a bunch of those companies that don't fund us but love our graduates, but that's just my issue. It's also what we call a service learning. So there's things that we're going to do to help promote design. And there's things we're going to do to teach you the design process to get things done. Our service to the community is the designs we produce. You also may be doing some other service things. Like with the community partner, you may go out and do some things for them to learn about, to establish a relationship with them so you can design more effectively. So we're doing a service. We're also learning some things. So one of the most popular things that our students love to do is write reflections in their notebooks. Y'all don't look excited. But what we know is for you to make the learning more real and to give us something to grade is we're going to ask you to write down what you're thinking each week about the project, about your team, about the need. So there's some things that we do to help get the project work done. There's other things that we do that we know are going to enhance the learning. Does that make sense? We have a whole list of learning objectives. Now, in a lot of classes, you'll go through and you'll have tests over these. We don't. You're going to learn these things by doing the projects. You're going to learn by doing, and so there's times during the lab, the advisors, the TAs, or your team leaders will be talking about some of these things to make them real. One of the pieces that's real key is this lifelong learning. When you go out and you work for a company, in class, we say, oh, there's a professor. If we can ask him or her a question, and if the professor doesn't know, then we don't care because they're writing the exam, and if they don't know it, they can't put it on the exam, so who cares, right? When you go and you work for somebody, you can't go to your boss and ask every question. Some of the bosses I've had couldn't answer any of my questions, but they expect me to figure things out. A lot of what you're going to be doing in EPICS is you're going to have an instructor, we call them advisors, and you're going to ask them a question, and they're going to say, I don't know. You'll be like, oh, shock! Well, the kinds of things that we do don't fit into a neat box. We expect you to start to figure out how to find resources to get those answers. We'll help you with that. But that's a key. Now, you all are here at the 4:30 lecture, right? Yes. Long day, right? I have no idea what time it is or where I am. I was going to math and got stuck in against the wall, and awkward to leave now, so I'll just sit here. Okay. There's a 5:30 lecture, although that goes away. See that? Isn't that cool? If you ever miss one of the lectures, you can view them on tape. You have the first 5 lectures are required. They're an introductory set that march you through the design process, the things that we do, to give you an understanding of the framework that we use and the information that we have. If any, the core of what you do is in the lab. There's a second time that you see EPICS on your schedule. That 2-hour lab is when you're going to meet with the other students who are working on your projects. And that is intended to be, typically, there'll be a little business meeting, coordination, you'll do updates, and then you'll spend time actually in our labs working. We don't have quizzes and tests, but we do have homework. Okay, not excited about that. In the syllabus, it talks about the time expectation. So if I'm a 1-credit student, some of you are 1 credit, some of you are 2. There are 2 differences. The amount of time, one is the amount of time we expect you to work on a project outside of lab. Now, I get students that will say, oh, they expect me to work like 30 hours a week on EPICS. No, we don't. In the syllabus, we talk about the time expectations. But what we're also going to ask you to do, and this is professional preparation, is to set goals, what you're going to get done. Now, listen very carefully. They're going to ask you to set goals in the first few weeks. If you realize you've overshot the goals, you're allowed to talk to your instructors, your advisors, to scale back what you plan to do. Okay? You're empowered to do that. Don't try to do this like in a math class. Hey, you know what? We collectively agreed you're covering too many chapters. That wouldn't be a happy thing. What we want you to do is to develop skills to be able to estimate what you can get done. Does that make sense? Now, I have had students that say, oh, I was working for 20 hours in the lab. And then we realized we should have turned the power supply on. Well, then that really didn't count, did it? Because you're a senior in electrical engineering and you should have known. Anyway. Okay, so it's productive work. But in there they talk. The other difference between 1 and 2 credits is the number of lectures, or think of this as educational hours. I'm a professional engineer. I have to do so many professional development hours each year to keep my license. So a 1-credit student should take 5 of these professional development hours. 2-credit student needs 10 over the semester. And you can even talk to your advisor on negotiating what they are, but there are lectures there. A key thing that I'll repeat a couple times. In our class, wow. Oh, I thought you were going to fill these out for your friends. Thank you. Did you guys get these? They make it through? They didn't? Here, take a second. Pass a group back. Straight back. And we'll have them up here too. Work that's done has to be documented to count for grading. See, if any of you are in whatever department or school that you're in, people from that faculty can say, why did this person take your EPICS class and get this grade? We have to have things to be able to show them. So if you're going to do something and accomplish it, it needs to be documented somewhere. And it can be electronically, or it could be in your notebook. If the work that you're going to do is related to the design, our designs actually get delivered out in the community. You're going to see things in lab that were out for 10 years and brought back. They get brought back. We have to go back and say, okay, what part's here? We go back and read the reports. So the things that you do need to be uploaded. And in lab, they'll show you where to upload work related to the report, the designs, that can get archived that will get referenced later. I had to do the same thing when we're in aerospace. Everything that we did had to be documented so it could be archived for other people. It's a professional skill. It's the kind of thing that you do when you're going to go out in a job, but it's also something to help us grade. Okay? So when people say, oh, you knew I was doing great work, but I just didn't write it down, that's kind of like, yeah, I showed up for the exam, I just chose not to write anything on it. Makes grading easy. Okay? So things have to be documented for that. Now when you go to lab, what should happen is they will introduce your team members. So you're going to go back and you're going to, hopefully they'll ask you what year, what major, what interested you in whatever section of EPICS that you signed up for. If there's some reason that you took that, especially if it's not related to your discipline, make sure you let them know. So we've had computer science students come in and say, I don't want to do anything related to programming. I want to get hands-on stuff. I want to work down in a shop because I take all these coding classes. Well, if I just go in, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm Bill Oakes, and I'm in computer science. That would be a joke because I have computers. But anyway, if I say, oh, I'm in computer science, it'd be like, oh, you probably want to do something in programming, right? So if I don't if I signed up for this class because that section because I want to work on that project, let them know. Now, EPICS is real. So you're going to come in, and what they're going to do is they're going to review the projects. We don't get to make up our projects. We have real partners that have real needs, and our projects, often the team from the fall, may not have finished anything. And that might have been they intended to finish, or it was just scheduled to continue this semester. So there are going to be commitments that we have to our partners that have to be met by that section. So it's a mapping, there's a discussion that will happen between your interest and the needs of the team. And if you're really not happy with where you get put, let somebody know, because we don't want you dropping EPICS just because, oh, I didn't get where I wanted. But it's real, and life's not always totally about you. So there's negotiation. Does that make sense? I want you to find something that you're satisfied with, but we've got to make the needs. So that will happen. There are roles. I'll explain some of the roles. You do not have to have a leadership role or a role with a title to get a good grade, to get an A or B in EPICS. So don't feel pressured. But if there's something like, oh, that sounds fun, then you can take that on. Often, and hopefully, there'll be some kind of trip to what we call the project partner. That's our client, our community partner. If they don't have an opportunity to meet the partner, you want to add or look for opportunities to do that. They will make sure that you can get into our labs. You will have 24-hour access to the labs and the computers. Make sure that you leave the first lab understanding what you're supposed to do this week. In EPICS, if you just sit back and like, wow, I'm going to see how little I can do, you can get away with doing very little till grading comes. Sorry, you can get away with doing very little, but you will be graded accordingly. So we expect you to take initiative. That's part of being a professional, is I'm not just going to sit. What do I need to do? You should have a meeting with other students between labs. So don't leave lab unless you know what you're going to do over for that. In a lab, and this is kind of different, some of you will see this in the first class, but you're going to have a student who's a project manager. So you'll come in and there'll be students running the class normally. I'm here, and the other faculty or industry people are what we call advisors. The intent is to let you as students run as much of this as you can. And we're there just for guidance. In every lab, there's also a teaching assistant there. Typically, the advisor and teaching assistant have different disciplinary expertise. The projects will each have a design lead. Often typically these are returning students that are down in Physics 114. There'll be team members. The project archivist, this is somebody who works on the documentation. Just make sure that other people get their things in. There's a liaison, a communication person. I think I have webmaster. Every team has a website. And one of the coolest titles, Chief Financial Officer. You think of your resume. I was in EPICS. I was the Chief Financial Officer. Y'all don't think that's cool. All right. Qualification to be financial officer, you have to know how to run a spreadsheet. Every team has a budget. And by the way, the team in the fall already set the budget for the year. So what you're going to do is to make sure that you've got enough money for this semester. Otherwise, you need to ask us for some. Those companies, the logos that I showed, those are the companies provide us funds for the materials for your projects. We don't have infinite money, but the teams set budgets and we manage the common pool that we have. All right, grading. You all will get grades, and I know some of you are excited, some of you are scared. Let me say, what do you think the most common grade in EPICS is? People are going, C? No. Most common grade in EPICS is an A. Now, let me make something very clear. A's are not given out lightly. What happens is when students buy into what we're doing and say, I need to make sure that we do the right thing and do our best to get the project done to meet our project partners' needs. And, very important, I've documented what I'm doing. You can achieve an A. Now what I hear is like, oh, I'm going to take EPICS for an easy A. If you're in the class just to get an easy A, don't leave now because it would cause chaos because we're so packed in. But go drop the class. There are other ways to get an easy A. But what happens is, honestly, when things work well and buy in, students do well. When I look at the quality work that our students do, it's very high. We have industry people come back and review and will comment on that. So if you follow our procedures, the first thing that we're going to ask you to do is to help set goals. There's, like I said, there's just shy of 500 of you. You will each have kind of your own assessment plan. And what you're going to do as a project team is you're going to say, how far can we get this semester? That's one thing you'll be graded against. The other thing you'll do is to say, okay, we as a team are going to do this, and here's what my part's going to be. And you'll talk with your advisor about that. So in the first 4 weeks, you're going to work to set those goals. In about week 4, we're going to do a little check. Our TAs are going to look at your documentation and give you some guidance on how well you're documenting your progress and to make sure that you've got goals. Then what we're going to do, oh, I mentioned that. is at week 8, halfway through the semester. We're going to collect things, and we're going to evaluate you and give you feedback. An A in EPICS is to do excellent work. When I get students to say, hey, I did a good job in EPICS, I say, yes, you did a good job. What would they get? Yeah, a B, which is fine. By the way, Purdue is kind of unique in a shrinking group of colleges. Sorry, not unique, but we're part of a shrinking group of colleges where your grade point actually means something. I was in a meeting a couple years ago in Washington, D.C., and one of the other people in this committee I was on goes, hey, I was reading this article on grade inflation. I'm like, oh. And he wasn't a professor, so I was like, oh, I'm going to get criticized. Purdue was mentioned. I'm like, crap, what did we do? We were in the top 10 for the lowest grade inflation nationally. And I say that because there are a lot of like, oh, we got to beg for, your grades mean things. There are a lot of colleges where grade point doesn't mean anything because everything's so inflated. But that is. So a good job is a B. If you're a junior or senior, to get an A means I've taken initiative. If you're a first-year student, sophomore, you can get an A by following instructions. And the grading rubrics are in a description of what to do for an A and B are toward the back. Okay, and these are the criteria that we have. Mention this. You will get a, wait, somewhere in here is a sheet. There's a sheet in here about what, somewhere. A list of things that you need to turn in. Your TAs will help you on that. Wait, what did I want to do? Oh, I was going to say, 2 years ago, I had first-year students that said, in lecture, you said if we just show up every week, we get an A. That's not true. We need to do things and we need to document them. There has to be evidence of work. And if you're like, oh, are we doing the right thing? Ask your advisor, ask the TA. They will give you guidance over here. Our grading system is designed like a performance appraisal. You all will be graded your entire career. Wow, you look depressed. But you don't get grades, right? You get raises, you get promotions. If you don't do so well, you get fired, but we're pretty optimistic. And the way out in industry you're graded is you set goals and you report your progress to those goals. That's what we're trying to teach you. It's the same principle. So if you set out to say, I have achievable goals and I did them and we did them really well with excellent and we documented them, y'all can get an A. That'd be cool, right? But I want to be clear, when I do grading, I've used every letter in the alphabet aloud. Even an E. You know there's an E grade? It's kind of weird. A, B, C, D, F. Oh, yep, there. Anyway. All right. On websites, you'll get shown this over in lab. There's 3 different websites. There's the EPICS website, which you can get on and has things. A key there is current students tab. Every form that we think that you could ever need is on there. Feedback is there's a lot there. We're looking at redoing the website to make it easier. Probably not going to happen this semester. There's our own. You familiar with Blackboard? Yeah, we don't use it. Well, we've got our own. It's a My EPICS system that's designed actually for the EPICS class. You all are in it, and you can use it to sign up for activities and things. Your TAs can show you that. There's also a SharePoint server. Remember when I said, oh, your design reports have to be archived somewhere? That's archived in the SharePoint. SharePoint is just a server system designed by Microsoft where you can upload documents. Anything related to your projects by the end of the semester has to be up on SharePoint, because that gets archived, it gets backed up, we know it's there, and it will be there. Your notebooks get thrown out after a couple years after you leave. But the SharePoint is, because it's Microsoft, it stays forever, or whatever. You will have an email list for your team. Every team has an acronym, and you need to learn the acronym for your team. But if you put that at ecn.purdue, this goes to your students. Ask in your lab if your advisor and TA are on that list. The default is not. Some advisors ask to get added to it. You just kind of want to know. So if it's like, Professor Oakes is such a jerk, you don't want me on the list, right? And the reason we do that is I have an email list so the students can discuss things. If they want me included, they can, but there's a way to email everybody up on that. All right, now there's some things that we deal with that are paperwork related. Purchasing. Anytime I buy something where I use Purdue funds, I have to fill out paperwork. You have to fill out the same paperwork. It's not an EPICS thing, it's a Purdue thing. We have our own credit cards for EPICS. Isn't that cool? You can check them out and go buy stuff related to your project. I can see some people back going, hey! No, that's not. But you have to get permission first before you buy something. If you come back and like, hey, we had this great idea. We just bought this new sound system for our project. Or whatever. You buy something without permission, we may give you a form that's a donation form that will thank you for making a donation to Purdue and the EPICS program. Reimbursements are, we don't do those. You need permission before you buy something. Does that slow you down? Could be. But that's part of needing to plan ahead, and that's what we have. The credit cards that you can check out. On your credit card, if somebody steals it and they start charging things, are you liable for everything that they charge? If you don't report it, well, yeah. But I mean, if you report it as fraud, like, hey, my credit card was stolen and somebody's charging, you're not responsible for all that. They're supposed to verify your identity. Our cards, though, don't have your name on it. It has Purdue. So anyone that has them has permission to use them. So if you're using one and you lose it, let us know. Because I have to pay, or we have to pay for whatever they charge. Now that means, and also it's like, hey, I want one of the EPICS cards for the weekend. We're going to say no. You check them out during the day and you bring them back. So we have people there that if you say, oh, something happened, I can't find it, that they can get it canceled right away. Does that make sense? So there are processes over with that. All right. Here's a annual ritual we're trying to prevent. This is a diagram of Armstrong Hall. You all are going to see your rooms. Most of you are in 1098B or C. And you're going to walk through the hallway in Armstrong here looking for 1098B and C. This is labeled 1098, not B or C. So you're going to walk all the way through here looking for B and C, and you're going to get to the atrium and go, oh, I must have missed it. And then you're going to walk back over to our office. Our office is over here, or over here, 1200. You have to go through the, this is all glass. You have to go through the labs to get to the meeting rooms. Okay? So if you're like, I'm not sure where to go, go into the labs. And there's two rooms, one's B, one's C. Does that make sense? That's always fun. It's like, oh, I can't find lab. I have to drop EPICS. We don't want you to do that. There's a build room. That's the dirty room up here. There's a computer lab. Now, this lab is locked all the time. You can use your key card. Once you fill out the little form, you get access to it. Reason is you can print. You don't get charged for printing in that lab, which is why we don't want, it's for EPICS students. Now let me explain something. Since we've moved in here, we've had that policy. Every year, they total up how much we get ripped off, or how much, sorry, the printing. costs in there. And I keep looking at it to say the students traditionally have honored, for the most part, we print things related to EPICS. We don't go in and like publish things. And we will keep having it free printing if it's not abused. Okay? So it's one of the things that we have. All right, and we got the labs. These are the conference rooms. That's where you go. I was supposed to click that before. EPICS office over there. Labs are for EPICS students only. Our insurance covers you all. Doesn't cover any of your friends coming in. If you do have people that want to use the labs, they can if they get permission. And they need to see our lab manager and go through the safety forms, okay? If you bring other people in, you are liable for them for that. I mentioned there's no printing. There are safety procedures. Please make sure you understand the safety procedures. If there's equipment you don't know how to use, ask. Our space, we have, just think, right? We have more students than we've ever had. It can get cozy at times. We need to be respectful of space of there. Some quick things on emergency procedures. If something happens, like, somebody needs assistance, call 911. First thing you should tell them is where you're at. This is true anywhere. This is where I'm at. And they're kind of trained to say, where's your emergency? Let me show evacuation. This is Armstrong Hall. This is Hampton, or the Civil Engineering Building. This is Push. If we have to evacuate the building, kind of right in front between Push and Civil Engineering is where we will gather. If we have to evacuate the building for any reason, please go there. Because what happens is our TAs and people will come, gather people, and take roll. And we don't want to have to send people into the building to look for you when you're like, I went back to my dorm or apartment because I was tired. For that. Severe weather, you hear the sirens on the outside. So if you hear the sirens on the outside, what do? You go inside. Sirens inside the building, you go outside. Yep. We'll guide you there. I hate this. So the other thing, I hope this never happens again. But if you've got something where something is text where we've got a shelter in place because there's a threat, you go into the classrooms. The TAs will put you in the classrooms and at that point lock things. You go into the room and wait for somebody to say an all clear. And actually the process is to go in, barricade the door, turn the lights off, and make the room look empty, which would be hard today in this classroom for that. All right, do you have any questions? General questions? I can ask individual questions. Now, let me ask, where are my TAs? Got a question over here. Yeah? Yes? Do you put notes from the lecture in your documentation? Oh, good question. Can you put notes over from the lectures? I would put them in your notebooks. I mean your notebooks and other things to say, they make a great thing to reflect back. Do we have, are you by yourself? What? Okay. We've got a TA. Do you have a box or something to collect documents? Do you have a box? You're not going to be able to. Here, pass this back to him. All right. When you leave, wait, couple, we have 4 minutes of educational value. When you leave, the attendance sheet is the most important thing. Oh, on your attendance sheet, put true for number 1. Question of the day, were you here? If you put false, you'll have to make up the class, okay? Put true for number 1. Make sure the attendance sheet is given to the TA. If you've signed the yellow and white form, drop them off also on the way out. If you've not, bring them to lab. The safety form. Not in there? Get it in lab. Okay? Shh, wait. Stay. Okay? If you didn't get one of the forms, if you did not get an attendance form, come up and get one. We need that today. Name and student ID. Now, this may seem kind of weird with so many people. If you've got friends that want to work hard and are nice to be around, I guess the latter, by definition, if they're your friend or you know people, we actually still have some room in some of the labs for more students. Feel free to invite them. I will be up front if you've got any questions. Next week, there's no lecture because it's Martin Luther King week. All right? Please be, I got to tell you, I can't think of a semester where I've been so excited. Coming back from the discussions we've had about other people looking at what previous classes have done, with the number of students that we've had, and the number of returning students that we have down. You're joining an excellent group of students that's done some very cool stuff in the fall. I will go back to what I said when I started. EPICS will be what you make it. If you really say, I want to go in and I want to make a difference, I want to be part of something that's going to impact somebody's life, and I want to learn things that are going to help me be a better professional and person, it'll be a great semester. Right? Good luck. Good luck getting out. You can out.